I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. In case of an emergency, I would like to take a moment to point out the exits located on both sides of the room and directly behind you. Also, Frederick County IIT Video Services, FCG-TV, will be recording tonight's ceremony and will be broadcasted on Frederick County Channel 19 for future viewing. Please allow me to introduce our guests, as well as thank them for their attendance and various levels of support that they've given our organization. With us tonight, we have the Honorable Jessica Fitzwater, Frederick County Executive. Mr. John Peterson, Chief Administrative Officer of Frederick County Government. Chief Thomas Coe, Chief of the Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Dr. Jeffrey Fillmore, Medical Director of the Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Deputy Chief Kenneth Poole, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Deputy Chief Steve Leatherman, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Deputy Chief Michael Darwick, Chief of the Volunteer Fire and Rescue Services. Assistant Chief Troy Grossnickel, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Battalion Chief of Training Frank Malta, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Battalion Chief, EMS Battalion Chief Michael Cole, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Mr. James May, President of the Frederick County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association and Chief of the Urbana Volunteer Fire Rescue Department. A special thanks goes to the Frederick Health Hospital, the Meredith Medical Center, the Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services System, the University of Maryland Medical Center, R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center, University of Maryland Medical Center, Midtown Campus. Without the support of our clinical partners, this program would not have been successful. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the Honorable Jessica Fitzwater, Frederick County Executive.
Good evening and congratulations to Frederick County's newest paramedics. We're very excited to be here to celebrate with you all this evening. We're here to celebrate your hard work, your dedication, and your accomplishments. Qualifying as a paramedic is not easy. All of you have worked incredibly hard for the past year to achieve this goal, so thank you. The requirements to move from emergency medical technician to the more advanced paramedic certification can be intimidating, but you all rose to the occasion, and for that we are so proud and grateful. And I say that on behalf of all of our Frederick County residents that you serve every day. For those of you who are here to support these incredible public servants, our Class 9 for the paramedic training program, let me tell you a little bit about the process they've gone through since the class kicked off on January 3rd. From what I've been told, the 43-week program is no walk in the park. Students have to learn anatomy and physiology, legal and ethical issues, pharmacology, medical math, and much more. In addition to the classroom time, you've logged 770 hours of clinical time at a hospital or other clinical settings and completed your field internship on a medic unit. They completed about 400 hours of lecture, about 360 hours of class lab work, and hundreds of hours in the field. In total, these 11 public servants have invested over 2,300 hours into this preparation. Yes, you should clap for yourselves for that. On top of that, they had to pass 6 different exams before being able to take the final exam. And when it comes to the rigorous final exam, Paramedic Class 9 can be extremely proud of their performance. In the history of Frederick County's paramedic program, the overall first-time pass rate is 87% compared to a national rate of 72%. Class 9 students made the exam look easy. For the first time in the history of Frederick County's paramedic program, every single student passed that rigorous national certification written test on their first attempt, a 100% pass rate on the first try. That's incredible. The paramedic students who follow this class will have a high bar to meet. I'm sure you've already told them that, your friends who are thinking about joining as paramedics. Our Class 10 holds their orientation later this week, so they are following in your footsteps. Congratulations to all of our new paramedics for your amazing persistence throughout this journey and for the dedication and hard work that you've shown along the way. Remember that being a paramedic is about helping people. As paramedics, you will save lives through the advanced care that you can now perform. That higher level of service brings new responsibilities. You will be asked to provide comfort and deal with people, both patients and their friends and families who are facing some of their most difficult experiences. When you're in the field, always remember that human side is just as critically important to our overall success. You will make a big difference to the people that you touch, and they will remember how you treated them, how you made them feel, and the service that you provide to them. They'll remember the respect and the kindness that you show them. All of you are clearly passionate about helping people, or you would not be here today. And for that, I want to thank you on behalf of all the people of Frederick County. I also want to acknowledge your class coordinator, Captain Ann Jonikin, and instructor, firefighter, paramedic 3, Robert DeGrange. We're grateful for your leadership and mentorship of this incredible class. Thank you. Thank you all for choosing to serve Frederick County, and congratulations on this wonderful achievement. Congrats.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite Chief Thomas Coe to the podium for his opening remarks.
Good evening. I would like to join County Executive Fitzwater in sharing my congratulations with the graduates on their successful completion of the 2023 Paramedic Educational Program. Today, we celebrate the accomplishments of 11 public safety professionals as they have each successfully completed what is without a doubt the most challenging and intense training program offered in the fire service. Over the last 11 months, the members of Paramedic Class 9 have completed more than 2,000 hours of training that included lecture, practical skills, and clinical experiences. After hours of studying and taking what seemed like an endless number of tests and quizzes, the graduates are now poised to become the premier pre-hospital care professionals that they have been trained to be. But Paramedic Class 9 didn't just complete their training. They have the amazing ability to say, as you heard from the county executive, that every member of the class passed the National Registry written and practical testing process on their first attempt, and that is quite the accomplishment. Paramedics are truly incredible individuals when you think about it. While the skills they perform, the medications that they administer, and the protocols that they follow are similar to others in the medical field, paramedics perform those skills in the most austere environments. They perform critical life-saving interventions in muddy ditches, in the middle of snowstorms, underneath tractor trailers, and miles up a mountain trail. Those added environmental complexities make the job of a paramedic like no other in the medical field. For that reason, Frederick County's paramedics truly have no such thing as a normal day at the office. The Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services is regarded as one of the top emergency medical services programs in the state of Maryland. Emergency medical services response make up nearly 80% of our annual workload. With your graduation today, you have stepped up to take a new role with increased responsibilities that will ensure that the reputation of Frederick County EMS is maintained well into the future. I would like to take a moment to recognize the members of our staff who were key to the success of Paramedic Class 9. Captain Ann Jonikin, Lieutenant Margaret Novacek, instructors Rob DeGrange and Greg Ruff. This group of professionals put a tremendous amount of work both on and off duty to ensure your success as prospective paramedics. They have maintained a training environment that not only made sure you were ready for the National Registry certification process, but more importantly, that you were ready to hit the streets and serve the citizens of Frederick County. Paramedic Class 9, please join me in showing our gratitude to your instructional staff for all of their efforts in ensuring your success in the paramedic training program. I would also like to take a moment to thank the families of tonight's graduates. Your loved one's success in this program is due in large part to your support over the last year. I'm sure it's been challenging as the graduates returned home from class stressed and emotionally drained. Paramedic programs kind of have the habit of doing that, right? There have most likely been family events missed so clinical appointments could be made or so that students could study for the next big test. Graduates, there's no doubt that your success in the program was made possible due to the support of your family members. So please join me in showing my gratitude to them. Graduates, I thank each of you for your hard work, your commitment, and your dedication to the program over the last year. You have attained a new skill set that includes knowledge of anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, and life-saving interventions. But what is more amazing are the acquisition of intangibles of crisis management that you've gained through this process. Critical decision-making, stress management, and leadership traits that paramedics acquire through their initial certification are critical to your success in the field. These new paramedics are resilient and ready to handle any incident that comes their direction. It is now my distinct honor to introduce tonight's keynote speaker. Dr. Jeff Fillmore has been a fixture in Frederick County emergency medical services scene for nearly 4 decades. He graduated from the University of Utah School of Medicine in 1979. Dr. Fillmore moved to Maryland and worked for more than 30 years in the as an emergency room physician at Frederick Memorial Hospital, retiring in 2014. He began serving as Frederick County's Emergency Medical Services Medical Director in 1985. Additionally, Dr. Fillmore serves as the Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services Systems Region 2 Medical Director and sits on the Maryland State Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's keynote speaker, Dr. Jeff Fillmore.
Wow. I remember when Tom was a new paramedic. And we had the same, it was a little easier back then in some sense. There was less to learn. We probably had kind of a similar interview that you'll probably have in about 6-7 months or whenever you finish your preceptorship training. I remember when Rob was a new paramedic and Ann. So, yeah, that's kind of geezer stuff, isn't it? I mean, if you've been doing this for 38 years. You've gotten lots of good advice tonight, and it's all wonderful advice. I'm kind of thinking to myself, you know, we're getting close to Christmas. The days are getting shorter. It's a little colder. I'm wearing a Christmas tie, right? But it also means that 15 months ago, Mike Cole and Jonathan and I sat down and interviewed each one of you. And I think we thought at that time, this is a pretty good group of students. I think we're going to have a really good class here. And although I'd like to say what you got here as far as all graduating and passing your test first try, a lot of that's your instructors, right? I mean, Rob, no, I know it. It's no secret. Your students know it. But in any case, we felt pretty good about this group of students. Now you're going to start another kind of adventure here. I mean, you've had these 9 months, 10 months in the class and clinical settings and so on, and it's been pretty rough. But precepting is also an adventure. It's another way to learn. It's an important way to learn. You know, there's places in the state where you can finish your paramedic class, take your test, and go right out and practice all by yourself. I can give you phone numbers if you want to make some phone calls and get a job. But we don't do that in Frederick County. We learned quite a few years ago that that wasn't enough to get you ready to be on the street. We had initially, we did like every other jurisdiction in the state, 10 calls and you're out. And we found that that really wasn't quite enough. And so as we added more hours and more calls, I think we were turning out better paramedics, people that were really ready to be out on the street. And I think as well, the changes that we made to give you better preceptors. Your preceptors have had training. They're not just a paramedic that said, I want to teach these guys, and we said, okay, you can do it. We give them training, and we make them responsible. They sign on the dotted line, this paramedic has successfully finished his preceptorship, and he's ready to go out and be really a very independent paramedic on the street. So what are you thinking about as far as preceptorship? I'm sure you're thinking, okay, I'd like to see a variety of calls. I'd like to see some good role modeling, which I hope we can guarantee. I'd like to get a lot of practice with airways, IOs. I'd like to handle some codes before I'm on my own, all those sort of things. And I think that just emphasizes kind of an idea that just it perfuses all of medicine. And you're in medicine. That's where you are. You never stop learning. Things are changing all the time. There's new stuff all the time. You can do things better. So you can't stop learning. And so what I'd like to do is give you an assignment. I'd like to challenge you over the next so many months that you're in preceptorship to learn how to lead, learn how to precept, and learn how to learn how people learn. Now, this isn't part of the curriculum, so you're going to have to kind of undertake this on your own. And so let me give you some old guy stuff here. I finished my medical training, which was 4 years instead of 10 months, but you know, that's just a little difference. But when I finished, you have a process where you choose along with you know, the people who do the choosing above you, where you're going to go finish your training. And so I went through the process, and I ended up going down to the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. And you can choose places on different basis. So some people like to go to a big academic medical center and be taught by the guys that are, you know, the world's experts in the topics, and they kind of watch things for several years. I wanted to go to a place where it was hands-on, where I was doing stuff and not just watching other people do things. And that's kind of what you're looking at here. Hopefully you're getting your hands dirty, so to speak. And I'd like to kind of introduce an idea to you, and that is see one, do one, teach one. So let me just give you an example. When I was an intern and I did a month of neurosurgery, and I wasn't being trained in that month to do complex brain surgery, but I had the most wonderful resident. His name was Jim Sabshin, and Jim was committed to the idea that he'd show me how to do things, then I would do them, and then I could even teach it to others. So you all know by now what a subdural hematoma is. Okay, that injury to the head, you have blood accumulating on the surface of the brain, and it puts pressure on the brain. Well, back in the day, we didn't CT scan everybody like nowadays. But in 1980, 81, if you were appropriate, we'd get you scanned. If we saw you had one of those, then we'd take you to the OR. So the first time we did it, Jim says to me, watch carefully, because the next one's yours. Okay. So I watched very carefully, knowing that I would be doing it the next time up. Makes a big difference if you know that you're going to be on the spot next time, right? So I watched every little move he made, and I just kind of cataloged it in my head, and I had a pretty good idea how I was going to do it next time. And sure enough, you know, I don't know how many days it was, or, you know, later, next one. And I didn't do it alone. He was there watching. He was there to intervene, just like your preceptors are. But, you know, you make a little incision on the skin, you raise a flap, we'd say, you look at the bone, you drill 4 holes, you use a little saw to take the bone out, you get down to the dura, you incise that and raise a flap, and then you get suction, you get all the blood out, and then, you know, you buzz off, or bovie, we'd say, all the little bleeders, and you check and check and check, make sure it wasn't bleeding anymore, and it's, you know, so, you know, it was pretty straightforward, actually. So it was something he could allow me to do under supervision. But sure enough, later that week or the next week, and we had students, I'd say, here's how it's done. And I'd show them. Now, do you think that helped me to be teaching? Did it help me? Absolutely. If you're teaching something, you're thinking about it. You're thinking, how do I want to go about doing this? How does it work? You know, what's my role here? And the same thing happened, other things, if we had cardiac arrests, sure, I'd watch a couple, and then the next one was mine, right? And so if I'm really thinking, when I'm watching the first 1 or 2, see one, then the next one, when I'm doing it, I've thought about, okay, how's it done? How do I organize this group of people that are assisting me? I'm not going to do it all by myself. So I've got to learn how to teach. I've got to learn how to be a leader. I've got to get people to understand that, okay, I know what I'm doing. Hopefully I do. But I get them working with me, because we got to work as a team. Same thing with chest tubes. We had what we used to call a knife and gun club. Every Friday, Saturday night, we'd get about 40 stab wounds. Can you take them all to the OR? Nah, you don't have time to take 40 people to the OR. So you put them in a room and you check them. About every hour, you go by each patient, see how they're doing. You check their vital signs. You do an exam. And if they need it, if they got a collapsed lung, you put it in one of those tubes about the size of your finger. Well, depends how big your fingers are, right? Anyway, you'd have to learn how to slide that in there and put it on one of those machines that sucks all the air out so their lung reinflates, right? So first couple times you watch, you see one, see 2 maybe, and then you're very attentively watching each step so you know how to do it when your turn is up. And then 3rd or 4th one is yours, and then after that you're doing a lot of them. And then guess what you're doing next? You're teaching people how to do it. And again, that makes you a better practitioner, a better student even, if you're thinking about those things all the time. So all that was very, very important. And I know this is not part of the curriculum, but if you'll think this way, I think it'll help you learn faster and be a better paramedic. I know you didn't sign up to be a paramedic thinking, I want to be a leader. I think what we heard from most of you was, I want to do more. I want to do more for the patients. I know I can do more than just what I've been doing for the last year or 2. And that's important. But we need to develop leaders as well. Because if you're the paramedic, you're on the scene, there might be the chief of somebody's fire department there. They're not in charge. You are. And you're the one that's organizing and leading. So as you watch and then kind of put some of these principles into practice, then you can be teaching people how to do that in real time. And then later on, of course, we do need preceptors. and what I want you to think of is, I want to be a preceptor. I know that seems a little daunting now, but each one of you is an embryonic preceptor. Each one of you, if you'll approach it correctly and work hard at it, you'll be able in a few years to say, I think I can do this. I've learned how to do this. I've learned how to do this more than one way. I know the different techniques and which patients to apply this technique or that technique to. You learn that sort of stuff. It's stuff you want to pass on. I mean, what good is knowledge if you can't pass it on to somebody else, right? So that's important. And then I think just learning how to learn. We all learn in different ways, and the people you'll be teaching learn in different ways. I think most paramedics learn by doing. And so it's important to get your hands on it and learn that way. Let me just leave one last thing with you. And I promised Tom I wouldn't drone on and on and on. And this is just on a different topic. Right now, you are like fresh newborn babies. And why do I say that? Because you have your integrity. You have your integrity right now. Nobody for a minute doubts that you're going to approach things honestly and in the very best way to do it. There will be temptations as you get out there in the field, and especially once you're on your own and you're afraid to make a mistake. Let me just tell you, I have never in 38 years seen anybody disciplined, I mean really disciplined, for making a mistake and reporting it. If you make a mistake and you try and cover it up, you try and falsify a record, you try and get other people to go along with you, then you get in trouble. Because we can't have people doing that. But what I'm telling you too is though, the integrity you have now, if you'll hang on to it with your life, if you'll always play by the rules, if you'll be a model of integrity, you'll always have it. The day that you do something that wouldn't be the honest thing to do, you've lost it. And you can't get it back. You cannot get it back. So don't be tempted. Trust your leaders. Trust that if you make a mistake, we'll help you. We'll try and make you understand what went wrong and how not to do it again, because we want you to be out there and doing your job again in the best possible way. That's our goal. Trust in that. Trust in that. So, again, I'm not going to take up all night talking with you. That's why I don't do a written speech, because it would probably go on for hours. But I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to see all your smiling faces here and just know how successful you're going to be. And I leave that with you, and I just give you my own congratulations and thanks for being the paramedics that you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I would like to invite Paramedic Class 9 Lead Instructor, Firefighter Medic Rob DeGrange, to the podium for a few words.
Good evening. Before I start, I'd just like to say, I actually thought you had been doing those speeches just off the cuff all those years, and spent most of the day trying to memorize this so I could do that. It's nice to see you using your phone for your bullet points. It makes me feel a little bit better. Secondly, to all of you, I don't always know what the speeches are going to be before I come up here, so you may hear some things you've heard before. One of them, I'm only beginning to realize what an accomplishment it was. So, good evening. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Rob DeGrange. I have worked for Frederick County Division Fire Rescue for just under 25 years, the bulk of which as a fire medic, and the last 2 years as the instructor for the division's paramedic program. I'm that guy. The one that the members in front of you have been required to spend most of their time with since walking into classroom 125 on January 3rd of this year. Before I begin the speech portion, I would like to take a moment and call attention to some of the people who have made this program possible. County Executive Fitzwater, your support of this program, most of which you've had to learn about in a very short amount of time, is truly appreciated, and thank you. Chief Coe, your willingness to come back, to my IV lab every single year and allow these students to hunt and peck, poke and prod, stick IV catheters in your arms multiple times, lose a couple of uniform shirts, displays a quality that can't be put into words. It is the actions, not words, which show these students how much you support this program. We thank you. No advanced life support program can exist without a medical director. It is a requirement to function. The same goes for any paramedic training program. Hey, Doc, no foreign languages this year? Dr. Jeffrey Fillmore began as our medical director, as you heard, in 1985. The boss has been at it for quite a while. For the bulk of his continued tenure, Dr. Fillmore performed these duties for free. Most of our providers today will not have the opportunity to have the relationship with him that I have. The system continues to grow rapidly, and there are simply too many providers now for them to get to know Dr. Fillmore like the older members have. Newer paramedics might only see him a handful of times throughout their career. They cannot fathom the amount of work that Dr. Fillmore does for our system, and still Dr. Fillmore goes to work. Again, it is the actions more than the words that show your support, and I extend a thank you from all of us, seasoned providers and new. Chiefs Poole, Leatherman, Cole, and Malto, most of the students likely have not had many interactions with you throughout the class. We appreciate your support. Captain Jonikin and Lieutenant Novacek, the members of Paramedic Class 9 simply have no idea just how much frenzied motion there is behind the curtain. Working weekends, consistently being some of the first to show and the last to leave the building, working from home, having vacations interrupted. and maybe only one panicked phone call from me are just a few of the highlights. Your actions enabled me to focus primarily on the day-to-day classroom operations, and I sincerely thank you both. Finally, I wish to extend a thank you to the single most important supporters of PC9. Without you, these members could not have achieved all that they have achieved. If you ask PC9, they will tell you that on day one, I told them that to be successful in this program, they would have to devote most, if not all, of their time to the program. I told them it would be eat, sleep, study, maybe eat, maybe sleep, and mostly study. I told them it would likely feel like they were single and probably with no work-life balance, that it would be overwhelming, and that it would likely consume their lives for at least 10 months. Class 3 days a week, clinical rotations when they're not in class, essentially managing life alone, uninterrupted study time, moody, tired, exhausted, and irritable people, missed extracurricular activities, make up days on days they thought they would get a break. Moreover, that was the easy part. These people, the family and the loved ones of PC9, I personally extend a heartfelt thank you to you. The division still needs them to put in a high degree of effort. However, I'm cutting them loose back to you for a more regular and slightly more relaxed schedules. Thank you very much. And for the stars of the evening, PC9, you are my second class, and I continue to learn every day how to manage a classroom, find each student's learning style, mostly, and refine my teaching style to reach all of you to the best of my ability in a way that you can receive the information I'm trying to put out there. For myself personally, thank you for tolerating the ups and downs, the unknowns, the starts and stops of a schedule that a lot of times look more like a moving target than an actual itinerary. In addition, let me be clear about something. Despite some of the kind words that have been lofted onto my shoulders this evening already, you and you alone did 100% of the work to achieve this certification. I may be the face of the program currently. I may be the person you spend most time with, and I may be the teacher who suggested try it this way or that way. But in the end, you put the effort in to achieve this certification. Congratulations. In addition, Doc, thank you for pointing out how long I've been on the job, how old I am, asking which dinosaur I rode to which call, etc., etc. I enjoy being kept on my toes, really, I do. Ladies and gentlemen, our program is not easy. The textbook alone has 2,087 pages worth of information in it. One of the first things I inform the students of is that we cannot possibly cover all of the information in class, that they are responsible for the information in the textbook, and that if it's in the book, I can test them on it. I tell students regularly they must want this class and certification more than the staff, that the students will get from the class what they put into it. PC9 responded. Academically speaking, PC9 is a very high-scoring class. I take great pride in pointing out that PC9 had 0 retests within the National Registry testing curriculum. Paramedic students take a written test on one day, then a practical test on another. They also have multiple attempts to pass. That's how difficult it is. Typically, some students will need some remediation or adjustments to pass the test, and that will usually require them to remediate their skills and testing protocols, often resulting in a student who's sitting here who's not technically a paramedic yet. PC9, I want you to know and appreciate what you have done. The number of phone calls Captain Jonathan and I have received about that accomplishment tell me how much work and effort you put in, and I'm extraordinarily proud of you all. Almost there, bear with me. Within PC9, there was a quiet competition waged between 2 of the students. It was interesting to watch unfold, but it was not the competition you might expect, and I'll lay it out for you. Ready, lads? All right. See, on the one hand, it's my opinion that these 2 enjoyed getting the highest grades on an exam or a quiz, even if they did seem genuinely surprised every time I informed them of their grades, every single time. I would tell them they passed, I would tell them they got a high grade, and every single time they would almost collapse to the floor. Oh, thanks, I thought I did bad on that. Every single test. On the other hand, they were constantly trying to find a way not to draw any attention to themselves, as to not be required to make any kind of a public showing, you know, like giving a speech for an impressive accomplishment. That competition was to be the valedictorian at PC9, but also to make sure in no way, shape, or form to gain any recognition for that accomplishment. And to that end, the number 1 and 2 students attempted separately to sell me on making the other give this speech. and that is the truth. This year by a margin of 1.32124242 points. And yes, I did the math. That honor goes to paramedic student Jacob Myers. I told you, man, bomb one test, just one, you'd still pass, and he'd have to give the speech. I'd like to ask, and I hope I'm getting the honor to be the first to address him correctly, paramedic Jacob Myers to come to the podium for a few words.
Good evening. If this program has taught me anything, and really working in the fire service in general, it's that it's good to get out of your comfort zone. That's where personal growth begins. So it's fitting that I'm the one giving this speech for our class. I am objectively the worst at public speaking, arguably one of the more awkward, and my face gets very red when I'm embarrassed. We are paramedic class 9. There have been many classes before us, and there will be many more to come. I'm sure every class will make their own claims as to how theirs is special and unique, and for why theirs is the best. And having said that, I will now say that PC9 is special and it is unique, and in our opinion, we are the best. For starters, we are the first class to have an internationally ranked, albeit not very highly, triathlon team. We are also the first class to have a student perform open chest cardiac tissue massage during a cardiac arrest. But most importantly, we are the first class to have a class pet, Sparky the goldfish. Yeah. PC9 is a collection of students from all different paths and at all different points in their lives, and for all different reasons. We have students with previous careers as an investment banker, 2 veterans, 1 still active duty, soon to be deployed to Kenya, a former boat captain, and a former minor league baseball player. And we have students who have studied a wide range of subjects from history to economics and from theology to photography. We have students who are still in their rookie year when they started this program, and we have students who have had years on the job. One of the most interesting things about the fire service is the kinds of people that are drawn to this job. The kinds of people with the desire to help others and to become stewards of their communities. This is, I think, particularly true of those that decide to undertake this program. Having gone through this class, I now firmly believe that it is not something that is done frivolously or casually. This is not done for the money. We've taken on way too much additional responsibility for that to be true. This is not something that's done for the title. Most people outside of the fire service don't know the difference between an EMT or a paramedic. Nor is this something that's done for the prestige or the sense of respect. Much of what we do largely goes unnoticed. No, having gone through the class, I now adamantly believe that getting through this program would not have been possible unless you had a deep willingness and desire to help others and to contribute to our community in a meaningful way. PC9 is a group of students who came together to accomplish something great, truly challenging, and profoundly meaningful. I suppose the main purpose of this speech is to thank everyone that made today possible for our class. Firstly, the citizens for their patience, understanding, and the blood they bled during our first few dozen IV attempts. I cannot tell you the number of times a patient said something along the lines of, "Everyone needs to learn sometime," after I missed an IV or I spilled a fluid bag on the ground. These were sick people, people that were in pain, people who were having one of the worst days of their lives. Their acceptance of us as students is honestly nothing less than heroic. I would also like to thank the hospital staff who, it was not their job to teach us, but who were nevertheless always eager and willing to share their knowledge and skills with us. And I would also like to thank our preceptors. I believe emergency medicine has got to be one of the hardest things to learn, and even more so to teach. Because like with learning anything, the path to success is littered with mistakes and failures for you to learn from. And although we tried our best in class to create simulations that were as realistic as possible, I believe that in order to truly learn, those mistakes need to be real. But what does that mean in emergency medicine where a real call is the worst day of someone's life? In a way, it goes against the Hippocratic oath of do no harm, because for any patient on any call, it will always be in the patient's best interest to have the most senior and skilled medic perform any of the interventions. And yet, if you want to have paramedics, you need to have paramedic students, and you need to give those students the opportunity to try and to fail. And I can only imagine the challenge that this must be for our preceptors, who, however, they would never let us fail outright, needed to know when to step in and when to stay back and observe. I would also like to thank all of our adjunct instructors who came in off the field to teach our class, our individual modules. Captain Dishart, Lieutenant Steele, Lieutenant Ward, Lieutenant Miller, and Instructor Ruff. Your decades of experience and knowledge, your stories and lessons learned from the field, and your personal expertise have made us not just better providers, but better people. And of course, I would like to thank our lead instructors, Lieutenant Navalchak and Captain Jonakin, and of course, Instructor DeGrange. I will never forget your many DeGrangeisms, such as how you summed up all of pathophysiology for me with your saying, blood goes round and round, air goes in and out, anything that messes with that is bad. I remember very early on in the program, I had to miss a class day, and Instructor DeGrange was kind enough to come in over the weekend to help me catch up. We were in the office, and he showed me their calendar, which quite literally took up the entire wall, and which meticulously outlined every single day from the start of class to this very moment. I can only imagine the amount of immense effort that went into building a program like this, and I cannot imagine a better program that would better prepare us for the field. But most importantly, I would like to thank all the friends and family sitting in the audience today. You are all the real MVPs. You have supported us, waited for us, and you have endured us. Many of you have put your own plans and lives on hold so that you could achieve something for yourselves so we could achieve something for ourselves that you never asked for. And although we did it for a noble cause, it is still selfish to ask that of you. We have worked long and unusual hours, and even when we were home, most of the time we weren't actually really home. All I can say on behalf of PC9 is thank you, and that behind everything that a firefighter, EMT, or paramedic does is their family making it possible. And lastly, I'd like to thank my fellow classmates. At the beginning of this program, our instructors kept warning us that as the class progressed and the stress and the sleep deprivation accumulated, that we would start to become increasingly frustrated with our fellow peers. But honestly, other than the normal jokes and banter typically found in a firehouse, I think we remained supportive of each other right up to the very end of class. For each of us, no one knew better than our fellow classmates, perhaps besides the friends and family in the audience. The trials and trepidations that we were facing. And through that mutually shared struggle, we have developed friendships that I believe will last not just the rest of our careers, but the rest of our lives. I think that it's easy for people in our career to lose sight of just how abnormal a lot of the things that we do every day in our job really is. We like to make fun of each other, and we keep each other humble, and we only compare ourselves to one another, other people doing the exact same things that we're doing. And when we do this, I think sometimes it's easy to forget that the things we're doing is not normal. In truth, we get to do incredible things every day. To my fellow classmates, we took on something huge by taking on this program, and it's not something that just anyone else could have done. It is extraordinary, and we should all be incredibly proud of ourselves. I wanted to end this speech with one of my favorite quotes by one of my favorite writers, Terry Pratchett, who said, "The phrase, 'someone ought to do something' is not by itself a helpful one. All of us in PC9, as well as all those that choose to become firefighters, paramedics, and many other professions, are part of that crucial minority of people that have an ingrained sense of urgency, a sense of urgency that, in my opinion, is all too uncommon amongst people today. That when they hear that phrase, 'someone ought to do something,' their immediate visceral reaction is, 'and that someone should be me.' We chose to be that someone when we put in our application. We chose to be that someone every time we studied and every time we trained, and we chose to be that someone during every clinical and on every call." Thank you all again, and Godspeed.
At this time, we will have the presentation of the paramedic class certificates. ALS Program Director, Captain Ann Jonakin, please prepare your class for the presentation.
Paramedic Class 9, on your feet.
Chief Coe, County Executive Fitzwater, Deputy Chief Poole, Deputy Chief Leatherman, Deputy Chief Darwick, and Dr. Fillmore will be presenting the graduation certificates. If the dignitaries would please form a line to congratulate the graduates, and then if everyone could please hold your applause until the end. Abel Baru, Frederick County Division of Fire Rescue Services. Matthew Cloud, Frederick County Division of Fire Rescue Services. Nicholas Gentili, Frederick County Division of Fire Rescue Services. Andrew Joy, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Alexander Mateo, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Jacob Myers, Frederick County Division of Fire Rescue Services. Stephen Norris, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Jared Snyder, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Zachary Snyder, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. Samantha Sutterman, Independent Hose Company, number 1. Michael Thaden, Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services. All right, let's hear it for Paramedic Class 9. Thank you. And now if Chief Coe could come forward for his final remarks.
As new paramedics, it's imperative that you realize the awesome responsibility that lies before you. We are placing the community in your hands to care for in their time of need. Somewhere right now in Frederick County, there's a person who's wondering if they call 911 for a critical medical emergency, who will be the person that shows up? That answer is simple, because that answer is you. You are now the person that will be looked to provide quick, effective, and decisive life-saving interventions at someone's most desperate moment. Know that your journey to become a paramedic has not ended, but in fact has just begun. Paramedics, like most in our service, are required to be lifelong learners. to ensure that they stay up to date on the newest trends and technologies in our industry. I encourage you to always keep learning and honing your craft to ensure that the citizens of Frederick County always receive the top-notch care they deserve. Above all, remember that a large part of caring for your patients is caring about your patients. Listen to your patients. Be compassionate. Be sure to be their advocate. Members of Paramedic Class 9, congratulations on the successful completion of your initial paramedic training. I wish you well in all your future endeavors and look forward to seeing you out on the street putting your new skills to work. Let's give Frederick County's newest paramedics one more round of applause.